Hello guys, my name is Jason Solania. Today we will discuss about the Philippine local history. What are the issues on the Philippine local history? One of the major problems in the writing of the Philippine history stems from inadequate knowledge of historical conditions in the rural Philippines. The problem is further complicated by a tendency to treat society as a monolithic structure susceptible to outside influence and change at a uniform rate. What is the importance of local history in Philippine history? Local history is expectedly closest to the people's heart and consciousness because it reflects their own identity, experiences, and aspirations. The history of the Philippines from 1565 to 1898, also known as the Spanish Philippines or the Spanish colonial period, was the period during which the Philippines were ruled as Captaincy General of the Philippines within the Spanish East Indies. American settlement in the Philippines began during the Spanish colonial period. The period of American colonization of the Philippines lasted 48 years. From cession of the Philippines to the U.S. by Spain in 1898, the Japanese occupation of the Philippines occurred between 1942 to 1945, when Imperial Japan occupied the Commonwealth of the Philippines during the World War II. The invasion of the Philippines started on 8 December 1941, 10 hours after the attack on Pearl Harbor. As the Pearl Harbor, American aircraft were severely damaged in the initial Japanese attack. Lacking air cover, the American Asiatic Fleet in the Philippines withdrew to Java on 12 December 1941. General Douglas MacArthur was ordered out, leaving his men at Corridor on the night of 11 March 1942 for Australia, 4,000 kilometers away. Japanese occupied the Philippines for over 3 years, until the surrender of Japan. A highly effective guerrilla campaign by Philippine resistance forces controlled 60% of the islands. Mostly jungle and mountain areas, MacArthur supplied them by submarine and sent reinforcement and officers. General Douglas MacArthur kept his promise to return to the Philippines on 20th October 1944. The landings on the island of Leyte were accompanied by a force of 700 vessels and 174,000 men. Through December 1944, the island of Leyte and Mindoro were cleared of Japanese soldiers. During the campaign, the Imperial Japanese Army conducted a suicide defense of the islands. Cities such as Manila were reduced to rubble. Around 500,000 Filipinos died during the Japanese occupation. How did the Japanese occupation affect the Philippines? Philippines 1946 to present. Crisis phase July 4, 1946 to August 23, 1946. The Republic of the Philippines formally achieved its independence from the U.S. on July 4, 1946, and Manuel Acuña Rojas of the Liberal Party of the Philippines. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something today.